I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Only Troy.
Okay. The Lake Geauga Recovery Center will give an update regarding the funding the agency received to address the heroin epidemic. Do you guys want to come up? Sure.
We don't have a, oh, there's one over
Dennis,
there.
bring another chair over there.
How is
I
everybody
just
doing?
do the he's more important than that.
My name is Melanie Glasgow, and I'm the president and CEO of Lake Geauga Recovery Centers. And thank you so much for giving us an opportunity to talk to you this morning about the program. And just also the fact that you recognize the value of treatment and how important it is to have treatment that's accessible and available to people. So I appreciate your support. I imagine most of you are familiar with our services and our agency, but just to bring, kind of give a quick overview, our mission statement is to promote lifelong recovery from addiction through prevention, education, and treatment, regardless of ability to pay. And we are happily celebrating 43 years of providing continuous service to both Lake and Geauga counties. As far as our programs and services and our funders, we are funded by the Lake County Alcohol, Drug Addiction, and Mental Health Services Board, the Geauga Board of Mental Health and Recovery Services, and United Way of both Lake and Geauga counties, plus a couple of state grants that we receive. Programs and services, we operate our outpatient offices right down the street here in Chardon. That also holds our prevention department. We have a mentor outpatient office that is also our administrative office. We operate 2 long-term non-medical residential treatment facilities. These are both in Painesville, but we do prioritize Lake and Geauga County residents. Our men's facility, Lake House, is an 11-bed facility. Oak House is a 16-bed facility for women. In January, we opened a new facility called Nevaeh Ridge. It's a supportive housing facility for pregnant women and women with children under age 5. We also provide gambling treatment and prevention services at both our Chardon and our Mentor outpatient office. And this year in January, we started an ambulatory detox program specific for opiate addicts. This is a collaboration with Lake Health Urgent Care, and it's a non-narcotic approach to opiate withdrawal.
How many do you handle in that program? Can you handle?
In the ambulatory detox?
Yeah.
Well, we can handle as many as there are, because it's outpatient.
Oh, it's outpatient.
Mm-hmm. I think in the Mentor office, which is where we piloted that program, we had about about a month ago, we had about 76 people who had gone through that program. Our Chardon office, we typically have about 250 total clients that might go through the Chardon office. So right now, I think since January, we've had maybe 10 people who have been referred through the ambulatory detox program.
You've spoken at the heroin meetings, haven't you? Yeah, I recognize you from that.
The follow-up at our Chardon office for the ambulatory detox has been much more positive than in our Mentor office, which is pretty interesting.
Gee, that's interesting.
People don't always remain engaged in services, but for some reason the Chardon outpatient office, they have followed through the services. So that's been a very positive program. We also operate the Mike Link Driver Intervention Program, which is a 72-hour intervention program that's held out at Camp Burton in Chardon. And we're recognized by the Bureau of Workers' Compensation to help business and industry set up drug-free safety programs. So if they want to promote a drug-free work environment, we can help them with all aspects to get that program set up that's in compliance with the Bureau of Workers' Compensation. So that's a very broad overview. But last but not least is our jail treatment program that we operate out at Geauga Safety Center. And we started that program in 1999. And I do have some stats that I brought for you to look at. That program has just grown significantly in the years we've been there, but particularly in the last 3 or 4 years. The funding that you provided to us was so valuable in helping us to hire an additional person to work with Dennis Michelson at the jail treatment program. And so after a pretty extensive search, we found who we feel is the ideal candidate for the position. And her name is Christy Kramer. And I've got her credentials here, but Christy is a licensed independent chemical dependency counselor. She's also a certified prevention specialist. Well, where did my notes go here for Christy? Sorry. She's also has completed the Federal Bureau of Prisons training program, a graduate at Ashland University where she had a BS in psychology and sociology and received her Master's of Arts degree in counseling in 2007. Some of the benefits to hiring Christy to work at the jail is that we've now been able to offer gender-specific services. So she provides group therapy to the women's group Tuesday through Friday, 8:30 to 11. It's also, she also does diagnostic assessments, and she's also been available to do individual counseling, which has been pretty much almost a missing component. We can only spread Dennis so far, and he has a large caseload there. And even the clients have asked for more individual counseling. So Christy has really been able to add that to that current service. So that's been a huge benefit. The other really nice thing about having Christy on board, and Dennis and I have talked about this for, gosh, quite a long time, about the continuity of care when people leave the jail treatment program, which is really considered an intensive inpatient treatment because you have a captive audience.
Right.
Once they leave, it's like all of a sudden they go to 1 day a week aftercare. And it's such an abrupt change from this very controlled, structured setting. So what we've done with Christy's position, she has hours at the Chardon outpatient office 2 days a week. So she's at the jail 3 days a week. She's at the Chardon outpatient office 2 days a week. So as people leave the jail, they come to Chardon outpatient. They will meet with Christy for aftercare and for individual counseling, and she'll have just that population. So they will have met her while they're in the jail. Dennis, they'll have somebody that would be handed off right to Christy, so she'll be familiar with them when they come to Chardon outpatient. So I think it's a really excellent way to help improve outcomes and ensure that people have long-term sobriety because they'll have somebody that they connect with from the jail going right into the aftercare program. I think when I spoke with David on the phone, he had mentioned about our plans, kind of going forward. And one of the things we'd like to see Christy do, and again, we're good at spreading our resources as far as we can. There'll come a time when she'll need to either have 2 aftercare groups because the volume will be so great. Especially with the heroin addicts, our goal is to keep them engaged in services for at least a year. And so if she continues the aftercare programs for a year, you can imagine we'll have to probably have 2 aftercare programs. The other thing I would really like to see Christy do is to do a family group in our Chardon outpatient office specific for that population again. That program has really grown in our outpatient offices. We are strong advocates of treating the whole family and think that is just crucial to people's long-term recovery, that the family be engaged in services also. So if time permits, if she's able to do that as well, we'd like to also add that onto her schedule as time goes on, to have a family group that she would be meeting with the family members and helping them understand addiction and recovery.
Yeah, I know that the money that we've given you has not been that long, so you can't really track successes. And I know, Dennis, you've talked about their citizen, the rate where they're coming back. And I think that's one of the things we'd like to see if this is really going to, stop the continual when they go back into heroin again. I mean, I know that it's tough, that the success rate is not that high.
Mm-hmm.
But well, I guess we're hoping to see, that, a little better rate. And I know you've talked about that, Dennis, and what you've seen people come in and out and in and out. The success rate hasn't been that high.
Well, and I don't think that's unusual for heroin addicts.
Do you
I
think
would
that
love
this
to use
might
the word
stem
stop. When you say stop, it's like, wow.
or
that's
stem
like a
it
dream.
somewhat? Yeah, that'd be a dream. Yeah.
Certainly, that's always our goal.
And in order to.
I think having that continuity when they leave the jail, Dennis and I have joked about, is there something about the pavement when they hit the parking lot of the jail? It's like they forget all the good things that Dennis has taught them while they're there. So I think having that continuity, having Christy
Should-
with them at the jail, and then an aftercare will be a definite plus to improved outcomes.
Yeah.
This is, I'll pass that around, this is the information, but just to kind of demonstrate the last, since 2011, how that population has grown in the jail treatment program. And, you know, if you look at the year totals, now we go by fiscal year, and I know you use calendar year, but these statistics will show fiscal year. So actually, the last quarter of our fiscal year is right now, so April, May, June. And so if you look right now, we already have 104 that are participating in jail treatment, so we expect that'll you know, exceed last year's total also. So this just kind of gives you an idea of how many people have participated in assessment and in the treatment program. Underneath each also tells you percentage as far as those who met their treatment goals while in treatment, what the average length of stay is. And then we looked at, I don't know, Dennis, you might want to comment on this, but this is what was in our client database as far as the percentage of people with an opiate diagnosis. 40% of men and 30% of women that have been discharged. And then just just a little bit of information about an analysis of where the referrals come from, whether Chardon Muni Court or common pleas. And then on the second page, since 1999, we have been doing 6-month follow-ups as far as people who completed treatment. And I understand, this was before my time, but I understand prior to the inception of this program, the recidivism was about 60%. So we have stayed pretty consistently at 20% as far as those who re-arrest after treatment.
20%?
20%.
So on the, for the assessments, for the number of inmates served per service per quarter year, so we had 40, 38, 33, and then the fourth quarter is still open on that one.
Mm-hmm.
But so we seen a little bit of a decline?
Decline in admissions to the jail treatment program? I wouldn't say so. If you look at first quarter last year, it was 34. Actually, it's increased each quarter over last year's.
One of the things that may have a bearing on that is a lot of these folks that do come back have a prior assessment, so they don't have to be reassessed.
I see.
If it's been within a year, you basically write off that former assessment, just update it. So it wouldn't be so much per assessment, but it probably the group number would be more indicative of, you know, how many people are participating in the group, because you'll have some people that'll be coming to group that really didn't need an assessment, or let's say Raven would have done an assessment on them, or Signature Health. We can ask for that assessment and use that rather than have to go through the whole reassessment process.
I see.
Down below.
And more taking advantage of it, I would think if there's, you know, more help, like what you're suggesting, that you know, it's longer, there's other things going on now.
Well, the jail treatment program used to almost be seen as something that was due to somebody just being in jail.
Yeah.
And because of the volume, we've had to basically, through the assessment process, see if they want it. If they're there to get out of jail, they can stay in jail and do their full sentence. And Judge Topeka and Judge Burt and Judge Furia and Judge Grindell and I all see eye to eye on that. I mean, if they want jail, we'll give them jail, but if they want treatment, in the assessment process, we determine that. And it's been really good, because now the treatment program is one of the best deals in town for an inmate, because they don't have to pay for it. You know, you go outside and you've got to pay top dollar to get the kind of treatment they're getting in jail. So we're very selective about who gets in there. And then once they get in there, you know, we've done very well inside the jail. It's a good treatment program. I've been around the state and see what others have. I think we've got one of the best treatment programs in Northeast Ohio, if not in the state. It's a good program. But where we've had difficulty is when they get out of jail and the continuity. And this is where Christie has really helped us with that. So we're starting to put things for years that we've wanted to do, more individual counseling, more continuity of care, be more selective about who is involved in the program. We finally, within the last year, have been able to do this. And I don't know if we had not had Christie, I probably wouldn't be sitting here in front of you today. I probably had my next heart attack. You know, the last one I had was in jail. It's been a war, and it's been a steady stream of addicts and heroin and everything, but you know, I'm proud of what we're doing. I just want to be able to continue doing it because there's so much misguided efforts. A lot of well-meaning people are doing things like, here's the front page of the News Herald today. Okay, they're going to give Narcan to addicts. That's absurd. That's insane. They don't understand addiction. Okay, but
They'll still be addicted.
Right, it's a do-good. It's like raising a zombie from the dead, but you still have a zombie.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
and the thing is, and to say these people go out and seek treatment after they overdose, they go out and seek more drugs. That's what they do, because you messed up their high. And so what happens now is, if we can get these people in jail, and I think even where they, now when they find overdoses, they want to make that a criminal offense and get them into jail. Because they're not going to come back from the dead and go say, where's Lake Geauga? I really need some help now. No, they're going to say, where's my dope dealer? I need some more dope.
So if they can overdose and get that shot of would you say?
Narcan, yeah.
That'll clean them up, and then they could go back out and get another shot.
That night.
That night?
Yeah.
I mean, they can just, it's like a cycle.
And people mean well by these things, but right now, if you talk to a hardcore addict, they know that they can't arrest the problem until they get arrested or somebody stops them. No one just walks in and says, I have a really bad problem, would you help? They have to run into an arrest or something similar to that, where someone intervenes and says, you can't stop, so we'll stop you. And the best place in the world is the Geauga County Safety Center. Great jail, nice facility, clean, new, modern. There they are. It's a prime time to reach these people. And we're doing it. And, you know, so I think, you know, the war on drugs, we've lost that. It's a war on addiction. And the only way you can deal with addiction is get people in a controlled environment.
And
jail
change
is a
their
controlled
mindset.
environment. Yeah.
Change their mindset and habits is what you're trying to do.
I've got a question about your sheet here about 2/3, 3/4 of the way down, right under the graph charts, 2014 and 2013. There's an increase in the percentage of men between 13 and 14 that were diagnosed as opioid dependent. But the women between 13 and 14 is a drastic decrease
It's a discharge.
of women discharged that were identified as being that.
Well-
Is that,
And it could be, I hesitate when I put this on because I thought somebody would question it right away. It could be that opioid dependence could be their secondary diagnosis. This is looking at their primary diagnosis. So somebody might have alcohol dependence as their primary diagnosis and opiate as their secondary diagnosis, but I don't have that listed here as far as the
okay, so
secondary.
there's other data or factors that could,
I mean, would you guess if that's how you're
Yeah,
diagnosed?
and I think all of you know that no one usually walks in and starts with heroin. They usually start with marijuana, they start with alcohol. So they may have a prior diagnosis of cannabis dependence or alcohol dependence. And then secondarily, when we do a diagnostic workup, there's a primary diagnosis and secondary. So it may be they have an alcohol and pot diagnosis, and now they have an opiate diagnosis. So that may be what that's about. Plus, we're just now, within the last year or so, being able to actually reach this female population on the level we need to. Because I used to have to do the whole thing. And I'm not poor mouthing, but I'm saying one of the worst treatment options in the world is to put men and women heroin addicts who have used together and go down to the back of the library together in the same group, because they've got past history, and they're not focused on treatment, they're focused on something else. So we've been able to segregate, we've been able to split them. And so that may explain some of that.
Okay.
I think if we had a secondary diagnosis included, it might, those numbers would look different.
What would treatment cost outside of the jail? We talked about that it's, you know, it's so much more effective and obviously reasonable. You know, they're in there, so we're gonna get treatment. We have you captivated, we're going to get you out of your addiction. You know, this is a chance for you, you know, to get the monkey off your
Well,
back.
you've got the several levels of treatment, you know, the aftercare, the IOP, and the residential.
Yeah.
We're basically doing an IOP level in the jail, and the cost for that on the outside, from start to finish with the top rate would be what?
Well, first you have to understand the basis of the cost. So when a client comes to our agency, there's a tremendous, great deal more overhead associated to it. So basically what they receive is a service that cost is a Medicaid rate, $9.52. If it's a group, $9.52 cost per quarter hour. And they'll be in the group 3 hours. So that basically runs, if they sit in that group for 3 hours, that's about $137 would be the cost at our agency. So that includes the counselor's time, the facility, all the overhead costs included, and that's what builds the $9.52. That cost is far less when Christy and Dennis does that at the jail, because we applied to their cost no overhead, just a small portion of administrative costs. So the cost that we built into Christie's proportional cost of 3 days is basically her salary, benefits, and a small allocation of administration costs. No overhead, facility, heat, light, phones. So the cost being provided to the service at the jail is far less. And basically, as the volume increases, obviously, the cost goes down, but it's almost half by doing the service at the jail than it is at our locations. So, does that answer your question?
Somewhat, yeah.
Okay. And so a 3-hour group is $137 an hour for one person. So it's
And they
considerably
certainly
less.
need more than
Right, and they'll attend group
3 to
as
4
much as
times
3 to
a
4
week.
You
times
said
3 to 4 times a week.
So 952
per 15 minutes.
for 15 minutes, so that's 38 a week
per hour.
per hour.
Times
Where's the other
3.
100 and,
Times 3.
But it could be 4 hours, so if it's a 4-hour group, it's approximately $137 at our agency.
okay, for the total session.
That's right,
Not
the
an hour,
total
okay,
session.
I'm
Total session.
thinking, wait a minute, if it's
That's
this
a
much
good
per
question.
hour, now it's $100 and some dollars an hour. Sorry, I missed that.
No, 3 to
Okay.
4 hours.
Okay, okay.
And I think the other part is that for your opiate addicts, generally speaking, the level of treatment that's recommended is even higher than IOP. A lot of these folks are going to residential. Well, they have residential, quasi-residential down at the jail. They have 3 hots and a cot, 24/7. We know they're not using drugs, so it's like a pseudo-residential program. And I would like to see it. I may be looking for a job after this, but I would like to see it expanded to be a longer program.
Yeah.
You know, right now, the average time is 30, 35 days. I would like to see it more like 60 days.
Isn't it like 18 months to really shake them loose?
My opinion is
18.
when they move from homeostasis to allostasis, basically, they come to that addicted state of the brain. It takes anywhere from a year to 18 months for them to get back to whatever normal was. But of course, what we're dealing with today are not people who used to have a normal. They've never known
Been
normal. We used to do rehabilitation. Today, we have to do habilitation because the family sometimes are as messed up as the client that's in front of us. And that makes it very difficult.
And the average age, you talked about that at the heroin meetings.
Right. in the paper today, they said the average age of the overdoses is around 45 years old. I would challenge that.
I thought.
I think it's like 20 years less.
I thought,
And-
yeah,
And there was a lot, you know, and again, I'm not
18,
trying to,
21.
but, you know, there's an obituary in the paper today of a 19-year-old from Newberry. And the body was found in Lyndhurst, and he would be number 98.
98.
Imagine 98 dead bodies in this room in the last 4 years. And it began with Allison Midtower in August of 2010. And it's just continued steadily. So it hasn't let up. And then beyond that is a looming specter of a real rise in methamphetamine use. And methamphetamine will make heroin look like a Sunday school picnic.
Is that right?
We've had an increase at the jail. Sheriff Dan and his people have been closing operations in this county, not just Ashtabula, but this county. And I commend them for that. But those folks are almost more difficult to work with than the heroin. Heroin is almost pretty compared to the face of meth. So it's there's plenty out there. And the thing is, at that level, if they were to get residential treatment, I don't know how much residential treatment costs over like a 30-day period, but I would say that what we're doing in the jail is significantly more cost-effective than typical residential, especially if you go to some of these other places like Laurelwood or Glen Bay or some of these places.
Oh, that's really expensive.
It's super expensive.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Glen Bay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that since the heroin initiative started, and they became more active in arresting and prosecuting the heroin suppliers and so on, that the methamphetamine has increased. Is that?
it has, and oddly enough, a lot of the people, for example, I'm thinking of one individual, I'll not get his name right now, who was pretty much a known heroin addict. And I'd had him in treatment, and he had gotten off heroin. He kept smoking a little pot, but he'd gotten off heroin. And then he shows up, he was in the newspaper the other day, with 3 co-defendants for a big methamphetamine operation. And I pulled him aside and I says, "What do you don't use meth?" He said, "No, I would never use that stuff.
But I could sell it.
But I can make money off of it."
Jeez.
Make money off of it, so it becomes a money-making project to finance the opiate addiction. And to him, it was just like the price of doing business. But it's a strange thing because, you know, we never had much problem with that. You know, Ashtabula did, Summit County, but we've seen a real spike in it, and a lot of it is people wanting to make money to finance other things, but then they'll have 2 or 3 people under them to run down to the drugstore to get the pseudoephedrine or whatever, and that's where they're catching them. And then these people are using. So those people will be winding up in jail, and we'll have to deal with them. And they're sad, sad situations, just unbelievable.
How do you keep working with them? Keep your own stability?
I have 6 children, and I always hope that there'll be somebody out there that will help one of my kids.
Oh.
Everybody's somebody's kid, you know? And I get parents that call me every day. I probably have 20 phone calls right now I need to return to parents. And I don't say much to these folks because that's not what I was hired to do. I don't have a secretary. I don't have, you know. These are parents that are desperate, say, what can we do to help my kids? And you can't help all of them, but you can help some of them. But here recently, in our county, we've had several really high-profile cases, and one especially tragic case that ended in a grandmother's death. And
Yes.
people will say, how can you deal with somebody like
How
that?
do you deal?
I said, he's got a mother and a dad. Of course, they shipped him off here to deal with the grandmother, and the grandmother paid the price. And those things break your heart. But the thing is, like in a case like that, you do what you can do, but there are underlying personality issues and other mental health issues. You get a regular, just a run-of-the-mill heroin addict. They've been confronted and confronted and confronted and threatened. What they need is somebody to come alongside them and collaborate with them and say, why is it you aren't reaching the goals in your life that you really want to reach? You never intended to be in jail. You never intended to be a dope addict. And when you work with people like that, you find out that they're not really bad people. Now, there are a few, and I can give you a list of names that are just bad people that need to be locked up. The key needs to be thrown out. But they're usually good people doing bad things, and they have good values, but under the influence of heroin, you can't live according to your values. You live according to immediate needs.
Yeah, the drugs are
And
tough.
if you can get them away from that in jail for a while and say, look, let's get back to you, not my values for you, but your values for you. And you see this that you thought was medicine, it's now become poison in your life, then that thing begins to change. And so I think we know how to be effective. I think we need to do more of it. We need to do it longer. You know, and everybody's got their place at the table, but, you know, people, you've heard me say this before, people don't care how much you know till they know how much you care. And you deeply care for these people, and I'm an addict in recovery. At one time I was facing a ton of felonies because I had floated bogus prescriptions years ago because I had migraine headaches, and I got into all kind of trouble. And I remember a guy named Jim Thompson, Lake County Public Defender's Office. He came over to jail one day. Everybody wanted to throw me under the jail. He came over and said, what can I do to help you? Boy, that helped me because he cared about me. You know, and these kids down there and some of the older ones, you know, you genuinely care about them. You know, I know the desperation of addiction. I couldn't stop. I had to be stopped. And it took the local constabulary to cuff and stuff me to get me to a place where I could say, wait a minute, this is not what I intended to do with my life. And so that's what we're trying to do down there. I asked Melody when she hired me, and I'm sure she remembers this, she put an ad in the paper, and it said, looking for a counselor in a corrections setting. And I came in and I said, I don't want to work in the mentor office, I don't want to work in the Chardon office, I want to be in a corrections setting, put me in jail. And she did, and I've been in there ever since, and I love it. It's tough work, but the thing is, it means a lot to me to have the key to the jail. I go to jail every day, but I get to go home at night. And I can tell somebody else, you do that too. And some of the best drug counselors you'll ever find are people that have been through this, survived, and gotten their lives together. And so that's, you know, the therapeutic value of one addict helping another is without parallel.
That's the best.
Yeah. If I wrote a book on painless childbirth, you wouldn't buy it. Okay?
Because I know it's not true.
Yeah.
I
It
know
was-
that's
my
not.
wife said, don't write that book.
That way, that
Nobody's gonna buy it.
No.
Okay? But one addict helping another, that's the best deal in town right now.
With the programs that the county's helping that you're aware of, and I don't expect you to do it here, how hard would it be to, you know, outline for someone like me who I have a concern with this problem, I just don't have the expertise to address it, you know. So if I say something that's hearsay, that would direct us or the people who are here, follow us, whatever, where to target our money. You know, where to target the programs that are working and the programs that are less successful. I mean, we all understand there's a problem here, and we also understand we're all human and everybody has to justify their department in some fashion or another, and if they can get additional resources, so be it. But I can't speak for the other two, some kind of a roadmap that says this treatment is very effective. This treatment is more frosting on the cake than the real cake. How do we find what that is?
Well, I don't know that anybody has the silver bullet yet as far as opiate addiction. In fact, I'm quite sure nobody does. But there, you'll see, like Dennis mentioned the article about Narcan. I think everybody's trying different things, and nobody has quite the answer. But as far as a roadmap, and I think if you look at the whole system in Geauga County, or looking at what we do at Lake Geauga Recovery Centers, Dennis mentioned that time frame of 18 months. And we hear that, especially with the heroin addicts, that it would be helpful for them to be engaged in services for 12 to 18 months. But unfortunately, the jail treatment program is about 30 days, right, 5 weeks. Our residential treatment program in the non-medical residential Oak and Lake House is approximately 90 days. Would be really beneficial for Geauga County if we had a recovery residence.
Recovery residence.
People, when they leave jail treatment, or when they leave Lake House or Oak House, they have a sober living environment in which to live. Now, these are people, this isn't a level of care such as treatment. These are people who have jobs, they would be working, and they would be paying rent. They would have oversight by a house manager, so it wouldn't be that they would be receiving clinical services, but there would be accountability as to their comings and goings. They could remain in that setting for maybe another year, but it would give them a sober, safe, supportive place to live after they complete primary treatment. It's a huge missing piece, I think, as far as long-term recovery. One of the things that we are constantly up against, and this happened a couple years ago when we had met with Mayor King and we're trying to get a recovery residence in Geauga County, is just the stigma that's attached with people who struggle with addiction. Yeah. And it still is a goal of ours if we can find the funding to do that. And I know we'll have some hurdles to cross as far as zoning and having people accepting of such a facility in their neighborhood. My argument is always, probably in your own neighborhood, you have somebody living right next door who's maybe using drugs or selling drugs, whereas the people in our facilities are in recovery. They want a non-using, sober environment. So they're actually a much safer neighbor than the person who might be living right next door.
With the population that you serve, ever increasing, for this to be effective, it would have to be a pretty large facility, wouldn't it? I mean, we're not talking about a 9 or 10 bed unit here.
Well, we're talking about like a regular house that would hold 4 or 5 men.
Really?
Yeah.
Kind of like what Maple Leaf does, where they have several, Maple Leaf has homes all over, I think they have 18.
Okay.
And there's 4 living in it, and they have someone who, and they take care of themselves somewhat, but there's someone in the home. Yeah. And these are people who are developmentally challenged, but they have them all over. And I know there was one that, backs up to my office, and you would never know it. It looks like any other residence. Yeah. They cut their grass, and nothing goes on there that's unusual.
Well, and our goal is always, to help people give the tools for recovery and have a foundation for their sobriety, and to launch them back out into life. And to have jobs, and to be productive members of the society. So this setting would just give them a very supportive setting in which to attain those goals.
I think back to your question about where do you get the most bang for your buck. If you have X amount of dollars, what should you look for? And I think as far as helping people, there's 2 pieces. One is there needs to be some kind of involvement in the 12-step recovery program. AA has done it well since 1935. It works if you work it, it won't if you don't. It's a great program. But they've been good on slogans, one day at a time, let go, let God. They've been on slogans, but not so good on how do I do that. And so you have the newer called evidence-based approaches, like cognitive behavioral therapy and other things, where it says, okay, you have stinking thinking. AA will tell you that. And they've been right for years. But now, here's how you identify the thoughts that stink. Here's how you are triggered. here's how you respond to it, and here's how you change it. So, not just AA, but, you know, they'll tell you out of Columbus, we want to push evidence-based practice. Sometimes, and I think they make a mistake, we want to push only evidence-based practice and just forget about AA. No, I think there needs to be a double approach. You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You
Sure.
take the slogans and say, these are great slogans. Now, here's a toolbox, and here are the tools you use to change those, what they would call cognitive distortions. And AA calls it stinking thinking. They're saying the same thing. And so, you know, all of the approaches are out there, but it seems like for opiate addicts, you need the support of AA or NA or 12-step program, which, by the way, is free, and that's the best price in town. And then you need these other approaches, which we tend to do that in the jail to augment what they're going to get, you know, through AA and NA. And again, you put them with a sponsor or mentor or whatever. And so when they're out of jail, they've got somebody where they've got that accountability to that person. So, you know, it's, I think anyone that comes along and says, Mr. Rear, we have the opiate cure right here in our book. And that's snake oil. I don't, you know, because each client is different. It's not one size fits all. And so I think that's what's important. The treatment has to match the individual, okay? And that's where that assessment is so important.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So we took up so much time, we can tell we're all very passionate about the work that
Yeah.
we do, and so I appreciate the time.
Very good questions. Very good.
Well, the idea is we're serious about it, but, you know, I'm a welder. I don't know how you do it. Thank you.
But I think that, AA understands addiction like no other. Because they know that once you're addicted to alcohol, you're always addicted. It's just a matter of staying off it, and not drinking it. And they fight it every day of their life. And they make that conscious decision that they're not going to drink, that they're going to live a good life, and they fight it daily. And I think probably that might be the same with a heroin addict, they fight it daily.
The only problem we run into is there's a lot of times real discrimination in the AA fellowship
Is there?
for dope fiends,
For
Hey,
what?
For narcotics addicts. Because, if you walk into some AA meetings and say, hi, I'm Dennis,
And I'm a drug addict.
I'm a heroin addict, heads will turn, and some old timer, bless his heart, will pull you aside. This is a fellowship for alcohol. So the stress is on the substance, not on addiction.
I see.
Now, it's not always like that.
Yeah.
But if you take a 20-year-old who walks into a group my age, and he doesn't feel like he fits in, so there's a part of the problem there.
It's
because
cultural.
It's a cultural thing. He's back there texting, and he's got a court-ordered paper he has to get signed. And some guy who's given 30 years of his life to the fellowship sees that, and he sees it as disrespect. He sees it just as somebody coming in here and not pledging allegiance to the flag. He sees that as kick the bum out.
Yeah.
And so we have to deal with that sometimes. Yeah.
Now, in your gambling program that you have you seen an increase with the local casinos?
Well, we first received the funding, this is through a constitutional amendment that a certain amount of the revenues would go to promote prevention and treatment. And that came from the state through to the county boards. So our agency was asked by both counties to do the gambling prevention and treatment. So when we first started, it was at the last quarter, it was the fourth quarter of fiscal year 13. And we weren't sure what to expect. We didn't think we would see anybody coming for treatment. But surprisingly, we've already had 3 people in the Mentor outpatient office that came for gambling treatment.
But mostly stemming from the local casinos, it's just easier to
Yes.
get to?
Mm-hmm. Now, there is it was specified that 60% of the dollars had to be spent on prevention. So the majority of our efforts have gone towards education, raising awareness. Hopefully soon you'll be seeing some advertisements in the Maple Leaf, and we have an ad on the buses, just to promote awareness about high-risk gambling. So we've had a few people so far that have shown up for treatment.
Just because I think that could also be one of the non-chemical gateways to leading to problems too, of people trying to bury their, pressures, and that it could lead to
Well,
other problems in the drug.
they tend to go hand in hand. There's
Yeah.
a real high incidence of people who are gambling addicts who also have substance abuse disorders.
Yeah.
Just flip from one thing to the other.
And you could say the problem is addiction, and then the vehicle or the means, whatever it is, I mean, the root problem is they have addictive tendencies or personalities or whatever, and whether it be gambling or alcohol or drugs or whatever.
I think they just want to feel good.
Well, I think too, if you were to have a magic wand as commissioners and rid the county
Oh,
of
we
every
should.
bit of heroin
Yeah.
there is out there, that wouldn't touch the problem of addiction.
Yeah.
They would find something else. And that's, it's almost like going down to the carnival and you've got the little heads popping up and you're trying to hit on this. As soon as you hit one over here, another one pops up over here. And so if you don't, alcohol and drugs are not the problem. It's the way people have learned to deal with the problems. And so treatment has to address what's the problem. Then you don't need the solution, gambling, alcohol, heroin, quite so much.
Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very informative, thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
So why we are here though,
Oh.
in addition to that.
Okay, sure, let's get to business.
Tom's our
We gave you
CFO,
the
so he-
update.
Who are you?
The more I listen to these two and others, the more I learn, because people ask them questions. I sit behind the desk and I do the numbers, obviously. And in addition to the update, we're also to request continued funding. What that funding represents is basically 60% of the cost for Christy Kramer to be at the jail 3 days a week. And then the other 2 days that she does work at the office is funded through our other funding methods. Geauga United Way provides funding, a portion of it. The Geauga Board of Mental Health and Recovery Services, we have a purchase of service contract with them. So when we provide a service, outpatient service at the agency to those clients who are eligible, and these would be eligible, we'll bill them and we'll get reimbursed. And that's at the Medicaid rate in most cases, with some sliding fee that reduces it, but very little. And also, so those are the 3 fundings for those 2 days. But the 3 days at the jail, we're looking for you to continue that funding for calendar year 2014.
What was provided in the heroin initiative was
For
for
3
the
years.
remainder, well, I mean, for last year, what was
Yeah.
appropriated was for the
Yeah.
remainder of 13. So now we'll be preparing the supplemental appropriation request for your consideration for the calendar year to continue that funding for this year.
Looks good to me.
Sound good?
Yeah.
Yes, it
Yes,
does.
thank you.
Thank you for your
Thank you
consideration.
so
No
much.
problem. Thank you for the
Thanks
time.
for coming.
Thanks for
Nice
coming.
day.
Yeah.
Dennis, get back
Thank you
to
for
jail.
all the time.
I have to go be with Judge Travis over in.
Good seeing you. Yeah, excellent.
Nice meeting you, sir.
Call me, Dennis.
I'll call you. The opiate task force meeting is Wednesday
I
at 3
know.
if anybody wants to come.
I know, I've got meetings galore.
All right.
Next.
So you don't need to make a motion or anything on that,
No.
right? Okay.
We'll be preparing the supplemental
It'll be on
appropriation.
the phone. So it's just number 2.
Okay. So the Commissioner's Office is requesting the Board approve and execute the minutes for the meeting of April 29th, 2014.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Sweetie?
Aye.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spiller?
Aye, motion approved.
Come on down.
All righty. Heidi? Heidi.
The
financials today include a revenue certification for the Department Revenue Bond Fund, that's for the Department of Water Resources. Cash transfers out of the general fund for portions of 2014 funding for the county home and the Port Technology Fund. Travel request for the auditor's office, and a payment to Robert C. Sidley for the purchase of property for the Thompson wastewater treatment plant for the Department of Water Resources, $45,000.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Speed?
Aye.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spiller?
Aye, motion approved.
Thank you.
Thanks, Heidi. Okay, Mr. Burnick,
Is there another one? Yeah,
Or-
one more, Ralph.
for,
The red-
oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Hi, Glenn.
Morning, sir. The first two is the waste management. What I'm trying to do here is put everything, consolidate all our waste and everything, try to get it all under one contract.
Okay.
With, right now, currently, just for the safety center, we're using approximately $9,800 a year just for waste. So, with this will drop it down to $7,700 with approximate savings of $2,100 just with that, doing that there.
How many pickups a week do they do there?
Depending on the sites, right offhand, I don't know each site, but we have at different locations for different sites.
Okay.
So, one's for just the safety center, and then the other one's for the county buildings, all of the county buildings.
Okay.
That's 4 and 5, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we want to read 4 and 5?
The Maintenance Department is requesting the board approve and authorize the president of the board to execute and initial a commercial service agreement non-hazardous waste with Waste Management for waste removal at the Geauga County Safety Center for the period June 1st, 2014 through December 31st, 2014. The Maintenance Department is requesting the board approve and authorize the president of the board to execute and initial a commercial service agreement non-hazardous waste with Waste Management waste removal at various county locations for the period June 1st, 2014 through December 31st, 2014.
I'll make those motions.
Second.
Commissioner Speedy?
Aye.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spiller?
Aye, motion will stand approved.
Number 6 is the, our copier slash fax slash scanner slash everything. It seems like it's, yeah, this has really been good. This machine's approximately 7 years old. We did a little trying to power in. We got it down a little bit, so not much more, but that's about what it's going for right now.
Well, it's good they're still willing to
Correct,
do
for that
maintenance on a
age.
machine that age for
Correct.
that price.
So, that, we figure we use around anywhere from $1,800 to $2,000 a year. So that gives us a little cushion there. This is a 3-year contract.
Sorry, we're working
Oh,
on all
all
the initial
those
spots.
initials.
Yes.
Okay, then we can read number 6.
The Maintenance Department is requesting the board approve, execute, and initial a service contract agreement with MT Business Technologies Incorporated to perform maintenance and service to copier machine model LD 425 CSPF machine ID C6758 for the period May 17, 2014 to May 16, 2017 at a rate of 0.0075 for black and white and 0.06 for color in an amount not to exceed $8,000.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Speedy?
Aye.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spiller?
Aye, motion approved.
Number 7 is for the Geauga County Gov deals. We've gone from the local auction site where we're not gonna be doing it anymore, and we're gonna use just the Gov deals site now. So we're gonna have to do a little bit more, combining and trying to get more money out of what we got right now. So we're getting it down to one site with the new contract also. It's, right now, at the current time, we're paying the 7.5%. We're gonna put that on to the buyer, and they'll be paying that 7.5% to go to Gov deals for that.
Okay, number 7, if we could read that.
The Maintenance Department is requesting the board approve and authorize the president of the board to execute an initial GovDeals online auction memo of understanding between Geauga County and GovDeals Incorporated for operation of an internet auction server for the period May 13, 2014 through May 12, 2017 at the commission rate of 7.5% to be paid by the buyer under the conditions stated in option A2.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Sweetie?
Aye.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye, motion approved.
Number 8's the resolution for us so that we can sell the stuff on the auction. Just to go back to GovDeals real fast, $786,404 is what we've made coming back into the county off of the auction stuff.
786,000?
Yes,
Since we've been with GovDeals.
correct, and that started in '06. That has gone back into the general fund or the funding of like the parks or whoever puts the stuff on.
So you handle all that then, so if somebody was getting
I-
the desks, you do that?
Yep, the department does. Correct, Diane Mark and my department handles all the auction stuff. Sheriff's vehicles, the buses. I
Everything.
all go on.
That's
What
why
happens
it's so
if it
high.
doesn't sell? After how long a period of time do we have it on there before we just determine that it's got no value other than maybe scrap or something?
We'll put it on 3 times, and then after that, then we'll go ahead, depending on what the material is.
Right.
Is it metal? We'll put it in our metal dumpster, so we get scrap money for that. Recyclable, one way or the other, how can we do it and still get something out of it? We look at all them
Right.
things. Is it worth our time to put it on the auction or put it in the scrap?
And when you say 3 times, how long does it appear on there per time? Is it a one-shot deal?
10
or-
days.
10 days.
Yes,
It's on
sir.
for 10 days, so then you may wait a month and put it
Correct.
on again for 10 days in case it's got some seasonal or somebody's not paying attention.
Diane watches that very
Okay,
closely, when's stuff going, how do we put stuff together. She's usually really, really good about all that and works with the departments and knows when to put them on, and so when it hits certain people.
I'm sure you're doing a fine job. I just need to be able to answer a question that somebody asked me.
Yeah, I understand.
So-
I totally understand, sir.
Okay. Read that one.
Okay, if we could read number 8 then?
The Maintenance Department is requesting the board approve and execute resolution number 14-079 authorizing intent to sell unneeded, obsolete, or unfit county personal property via internet auction through GovDeals Incorporated.
So moved.
This resolution further requests the board
sorry.
advertise the intent to sell through internet auction on May 22nd, 2014 and May 29, 2014.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Sweetie?
Aye.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye, motion approved.
And this is the,
Signing all this stuff, or what? Signing?
This one here, we gotta sign.
Y'all have a good day.
Thank you.
I think you're right on it.
Oh,
this one you guys have to sign as well.
Well, he's got to sign it first,
He
no?
did.
Oh,
You have to
okay,
do
I'm
it.
sorry.
All those little tags.
She's got a whole box.
I actually had to run out and find more than drugs money.
Get more tags.
Get a bigger one.
I'm working on it. I'm working on thicker ones that are hard to find. And then this is just.
okay, so
And the
we've
next
got
is
Doug
water
here,
resources.
Water Resources, and Jerry, how are you guys?
Good.
Good,
There
good.
you go.
Got a major pile to sign today.
I see that.
Excuse me, do we have,
You have to all sign it.
there are ones that have all
So,
these on, but
can
only
we
one
run through
line?
these?
Uh,
Oh, man.
Will we just sign
underneath.
anywhere?
Sign underneath. There you go. They give us one line for one part of the agreement and then multiple lines for
For
the
all the
other,
ifs, ands,
so-
and buts.
And then there's all these little initial lines that you have to sign on to. That would be Laura, all those little lines.
Laura.
That would be Laura.
Laura,
And your little changes.
yeah.
If you miss me, I'll catch you later.
So you have some good news today?
Well, the first item doesn't involve any signing, so that's good news. I guess that's good news right now.
He gets to use his favorite word I see through here.
Oh, yeah, who did that to me?
Just for appurtenance.
The first item is for Bainbridge Water System to begin negotiating with CT Consultants for the engineering services to model the existing water system and then to do some master planning for any of the deficiencies that may exist within that water system. We've gone through the RFP process and requested proposals from 5 different companies, Arcadis, Burgess and Nyepel, Engineering Associates, MS Consultants, and CT Consultants. MS Consultants and CT Consultants provided proposals, and CT is the best of the 2 proposals.
All right. We can read number 9.
The Department of Water Resources is requesting the board authorize the Department of Water Resources to begin contract negotiations with CT Consultant to perform engineering services on the Bainbridge Water System, water modeling and master planning.
I would make that motion
Second.
as I find all these little things. Look like crazy.
Commissioner Sweetie?
Aye.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spiller?
I
Oh my
motion
God.
approved.
I didn't just put in this.
10.
The number 10 is the agreement to purchase the wastewater treatment plant property from Mr. and Mrs. Sidley. This would be the alternate site, the northeast corner of the property, and also includes the easement for the discharge line for the plant. The next item also, I'll just kind of quickly cover that, is the all of the closing documents that are associated with purchasing that property. And I did talk with Susan Whelan of the prosecutor's office this morning, and she had been in touch with the title agency, and Ms. Sidley's did sign all their copies of all of that paperwork last night.
Thank you.
Well, you did that, approved that on the financials also, so if you can read number 10.
Department of Water Resources is requesting the board approve and execute the purchase and sale agreement between the County of Geauga, Ohio and Sidley for the purchase of 1.704 acres of land and a 1.028 acre easement on Thompson Road in Thompson Township for the purposes of constructing the vacuum station and wastewater treatment along with the plant discharge line for the Thompson Township sewer project in the amount of $45,000.
We have.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Sweetie?
Aye.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spiller?
Aye, motion approved.
There's still one. Stickies down there.
You wanna go ahead with number 12?
11.
Plus these little.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
This is-
You covered
I
this, so we
covered
just
it.
have to do these. The Department of Water Resources is requesting the board approve and execute the appointment of escrow agent, offer of closing protection coverage, removal of contingencies and settlement statement, and further approve and authorize the president of the board to execute the statement of conveyance of current agricultural use valuation property, statement of reason for exemption from real property conveyance fee, as these documents relate to the title transfer of 1.704 acres of land and 1.028 acre easement in connection to the Thompson Township sewer project.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Sweetie?
Aye.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spiller?
Aye, motion approved.
Okay, these are just, those are the 3 of you. This deck is just yours.
Okay.
This particular document,
Yes.
does everyone sign this? Because the other one didn't, well, that
No,
one.
none of them you signed, you.
Well, no, this one's got my name on it, I'll sign
Well,
that,
that
but the
one-
other one I didn't.
Whatever.
Okay, so where are we at now? Number 12?
We're at number 12.
Okay, no, actually 12, 13, 14, 15. These are, number 12 is the loan resolution that standard form from the USDA, basically agreeing to the loan and the grant amount from them. And then 13, 14, and 15 are the actual bonds for this project. The first one is to refinance Parkman for $126,000. The second one is for refinancing Parkman for $732,000. And then the third one is $958,000 for the loan for Thompson. So basic, a little quick summary on this. So the grand total of the loan that we're gonna, or the grand total of the project is $3.7 million. And by the end of the day here, after I put all the contingencies down, we're probably only gonna have a loan of $700,000. So from 3.7 down to 700,000.
That works for me.
Yeah, and that would include refinancing approximately 1.1 million of Parkman from 4.75 to 2.25%.
Wow.
So, yeah, very good.
It's good.
So that's what these forms are. Next Tuesday, USDA will be here along with our bond council to finalize everything completely. That'll be a big day here. Yeah.
More paper.
More paperwork.
So you
In
get
our box.
next three.
Yeah, I know. You want me to start with 12, 13, 14, and 15, and we'll do
Yes.
all together? It is gonna take a while.
So go ahead, read.
This is the stack that goes along with them.
Okay, just start. Go ahead.
The Department of Water Resources is requesting the board approve and authorize the president of the board to execute the loan resolution for the Thompson Township sanitary sewer collection and treatment system. The Department of Water Resources is requesting the board approve and execute resolution number 14-080, providing for the issuance and sale of Series 2014 refunding bonds of the County of Geauga in the aggregate principal amount of $126,500 to refund at a lower interest cost a portion of the county's outstanding sanitary sewer system improvement bonds, Series 2009A, dated September 16, 2009, which were issued for the purpose of paying a portion of the cost of acquiring, constructing, equipment, installing, and otherwise improving sanitary sewer facilities and other related property of and for the Geauga County Sanitary Sewer District by constructing a vacuum collection system and sanitary sewer treatment system, together with all incidental work and related appurtenances, and the acquisition of any real property or interest therein required therefore, and authorizing and directing the call for optional redemption of the refunded bonds. The Department of Water Resources is requesting the board approve and execute resolution number 14-081, providing for the issuance and sale of Series 2014 refunding bonds of the County of Geauga in the aggregate principal amount of $732,500 to refund at a lower interest rate, a lower interest cost, the county's outstanding sanitary sewer system improvement revenue bonds, Series 2009, dated September 16, 2009, which were issued for the purpose of paying a portion of the cost of acquiring, constructing, equipment, installing, and otherwise improving sanitary sewer facilities and other related property of and for the Geauga County Sanitary Sewer District by constructing a vacuum collection system and sanitary sewer treatment system, together with all incidental work and related appurtenances, and the acquisition of any real property or interest therein required therefore, and authorizing and directing the call for optional redemption of refunded bonds. The Department of Water Resources is requesting the board approve and execute resolution number 14-082, providing for the issuance and sale of Series 2014 bonds of the County of Geauga in the aggregate principal amount of $958,000 for the purpose of paying a portion of the cost of acquiring, constructing, equipment, installing, and otherwise improving sanitary sewer facilities and any other related property of and for the Geauga County Sanitary Sewer District by constructing a vacuum collection system and sanitary sewer treatment system, together with all incidental work and related appurtenances, and the acquisition of any real property or interest therein required therefore.
Pertinent.
Appurtenances.
Pertinent.
Say it.
You're putting the emphasis in the wrong place. That's okay.
You're putting that
I'm
little
like, I
hat.
was practicing that word too. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you.
For a pertinent. Is this
Second.
a, president only? There looks like.
Yeah, there's some things that say do not.
The one that says do not is that we are do not accepting the.
Yeah, but these little X's, this looks like we should sign.
All of you signed that stack.
Well, it looks like a witness to me.
No, that's on the other side.
I won't say anything. I will just say, put your name, okay?
Put it on here.
Commissioner Sweetie.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Rea.
Aye.
Commissioner Spiller.
My motion's approved. So Doug, that takes us to where now?
We're up to number 16.
Number 16.
Okay.
This is the dedication plat for the easement for the discharge line from the wastewater plant.
Okay, if we could read number 16,
That's this one.
we'll just have to, go ahead and sign the maps, okay?
The Department of Water Resources is requesting the board approve and execute the dedication plat of sanitary sewer line easement for Thompson Township, as it will serve as the easement for the wastewater treatment plant discharge line when constructed.
I'll make that motion. You gotta redo this, buddy.
I'll second the motion.
Commissioner Sweetie.
Aye.
Commissioner Rea.
Aye.
Commissioner Spudler.
Aye, motion approved.
If you miss anything, I will go through them and I will catch you later, after our meeting later this afternoon.
Just keep the staple, keep the,
Doug, how's
keep
17 looking?
these little guys.
17 and 18 are the two contracts for the plant and the sewer line. Contract A is for the wastewater plant. That was, Envirocom Construction was the lowest and best bidder on that. And the 1.619 million is again, for the alternate location. And then Envirocom was also the lowest and best bidder for contract B for the sewer line at 1.429 million.
Okay, if you could read number
We'll do 17 and
17
18.
and 18 yet?
Okay.
This one. It's just that Ralphie's.
Hey, thanks.
Just wanted his box back.
It's it back. He's gonna get it back full. The Department of Water Resources is requesting the board approve and execute the contract with Envirocom Construction for Contract A alternative sites for the construction of the wastewater treatment plant and vacuum pump station of the Thompson Township Sewer Project in the amount of $1,619,000. The Department of Water Resources is requesting the board approve and execute the contract with Envirocom Construction for Contract B for the construction of the vacuum sewer lines and all appurtenances of the Thompson Township Sewer Project in the amount of $1,429,100.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Speedy?
Aye.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spudler?
Aye, motion is approved.
Thank you.
Hey.
Thank you. No more appurtenances.
No more purchases.
Appurtenances. All right. This is contract. I have to make sure my paperwork.
No,
This is the
no.
dedication flat, so you roll that in there. Actually, there are ours.
Have you looked at that?
That's yours.
It's a paperwork signing day.
Sorry, Charlie.
Yeah, just the one.
We all have to sign that?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
We all have a.
Yeah, we do. And I hope I didn't put ink on your jacket. I do that to Frank a lot.
Even so.
Ask him, he'll tell you.
Skip, while we're finishing up, do you want to give us an update on your stuff from Friday down at NOACA?
A quick update. It was a policy committee meeting.
Okay.
There were a couple of occurrences that were concerning to me, one of which, and I've made a request to Grace Galucci for 5 pieces of information, but there was a resolution passed reclassifying roads. And I had made a comment or asked a question. I didn't have an issue with what they had done. It looked logical, but I wanted to review it by our county engineer because it was not reviewed and/or endorsed by the county engineers. For some reason, they had an objection to reviewing the reclassification of roads by the county engineers. And so it was passed over my objection. I voted no, everybody else voted yes. So I've requested the proposal or the presentation to give to Joe so that he can review what they've done. I have no idea what they did, if there's an impact, not impact, whatever the case is, but they've reclassified our roads. And I'm not sure exactly what that's about. And again, they weren't very clear. They said, trust our experts. I'm not sure that I trust their experts.
Okay, is that where the issue with like the 90% and the 80% of what Joe was kind of talking about, what they were going to do for that, or Mary, if you know a little
No,
more about that?
I was not at that meeting, but I'll tell you what my meeting was about if you want to hear that.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you done, Skip?
No.
Okay.
But that's all right. So the other thing that was occurring, and it's concerning to me because it appears Grace Galucci is kind of playing the game. There was old goals used to justify policy changes. And so the request was made, why aren't we using the new goals versus the old goals? It got very confusing.
And so there was enough objection in the group that that was set aside, and I think there's a new meeting established. Again, it wasn't clear. I think there's a special meeting going to be called to review the policy changes, but it's concerning because it is not, it appears as though there's some goofiness going on, and that there's some game playing going on to push the policy changes through. There was a lot of discussion about it, not just on my part, but on a number of others. So that was concerning to me. If you look at the goals, many of those goals are oriented around directing dollars, common dollars, cost sharing into urban core areas, that kind of stuff, which is an issue that I want to better understand, because I'm trying to understand what they're trying to do and accomplish exactly. So that was basically the root of the meeting. There wasn't much accomplished. I expected to see the new policy document in which our resolution was reflected, and I didn't see that there. I've asked Grace to give me a copy of the new policy document reflecting the changes. I've asked for that now twice, and I've not gotten it. So that was the outcome. The meeting was exactly 1 hour long. They ended it because of the follow-up meeting. But there were some things that happened that were somewhat concerning. So that was the end of that.
So why do you think she's getting back to you on this as far as getting you the material you've requested all these times?
Not sure. Maybe she's busy. Maybe she is dragging her feet because she doesn't want to provide the information. I'm not sure. I've asked her to, I just sent her an email as we were sitting in the meeting here, because she had said she wanted to call me and talk to me about some things, and so I'm waiting to hear a response from that. I had asked for the original charter of NOACA. I want to find out what the original promise was made when they instituted or created NOACA. What was the promise made to the citizens of our region regarding what NOACA is supposed to be, what it's supposed to be doing? And I've not gotten that yet.
Okay.
Okay, you want me to tell you?
Sure, yeah.
External Affairs meeting was basically to support the Highway Trust Fund because I guess they're going broke, and it's trying to make sure we have some money for the roads and bridges. And I think that there wasn't enough specificity in what Patrick was talking about, so they wanted it a little bit clearer. And they also are going to put together a business group and a civic group. And the business group, we would be able to elect somebody. Each county will be able to put someone on there. And then there will be 3 that would be put on by the External Affairs Committee. It would be a board of 14. Kind of like an advisory board, a business and a civic group. The civic group, the business group would be people from different parts of business and things. And the only thing that they put in there, they were saying they didn't want public officials, and we felt that when you talk about a public official, what do you mean by that? You know, do you mean someone who's actually elected? You know, so words do matter, and I think they needed to be a little more specific about it. So when it comes around, when they have an external affairs meeting again, they'll go. I had to leave that meeting quite rapidly because I wasn't feeling too good. So so once it was over, I didn't stay for the policy or planning, so I didn't hear. I'm not really on those committees, but that's why we didn't hear about them. That's all.
Okay.
But they'll probably.
So then that whole thing where we're paid, did they vote that they were gonna do that then, to go with those dollars that they're going to?
No, they have not voted yet. All the things that happen at the subcommittees,
Right.
that has to be hashed out clearly. And I think the engineers should put their input in there.
So we're not doing that where they get a loan for the money that they-
No, I don't think they're gonna go
spend
with
it
that
before
personally, because if they start doing that, if they start doing what they consider creative financing, you know, Geauga County could end up like doing all these roads at a very, you know, and then you're paying way ahead, and will there be money left for everybody else? I mean, that's basically it.
I haven't
That's
seen
what-
Joe. He went, he went in my place as well, I believe.
I don't know if Joe was
Nick
there.
also.
Was he there? Was Nick there? I don't know. I didn't see.
Joe and Nick were in the planning committee.
I didn't see.
And I talked to him afterwards.
That was later, because these
So.
things went on till, ours started at 8:30. So they went on
'Cause
till
I know Joe,
1:30 or
you
2.
talked to him this morning, he's going for shoulder surgery or something, but I
Is
know
he?
he had a few
Yeah,
concerns too, and
Yeah. And he heads up the TAC. I mean, he heads up the actual transport, where all the engineers, he's the chair of that committee. And that's the committee that actually, you know, designates what roads are done and who gets, you know, what's on the transportation improvement policy or the STIP. They actually make those decisions, so that's about it.
Maybe Mary, you can answer the question. The concern that I have about the External Affairs Committee was that there was some discussion about what we're lobbying for, what our lobbyist is gonna lobby for.
Roads and bridges.
We're gonna pay for lobbying again. If there's any lobbying done for an increase in our taxes, I would be concerned about that.
No.
And so I'm not sure.
Well, I don't think we're for gasoline tax increase, if that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it is. I mean,
I'm pretty much against that, and they talked about that because you know what? That gasoline tax has not been enough money to handle the roads and bridges. It hasn't been enough.
And it hasn't been enough because we've been directing dollars out of roads and bridges
Well,
into bicycle
whatever,
trails and
whatever the
beautification projects.
well, I don't think the
and
trails
those
are
sorts of things, so.
hardly the amount of money that they need. I mean, that's a very minute amount. It just isn't enough money to help the infrastructure of this, you know, the United States and the roads and the bridges. Because the engineers of this country have set our roads and bridges at an average of C-D.
Now on
in
that, but
grading.
when they do that for the funding for those bike trails, is that something that NOACA came up with, or is
No,
that something
no,
that's a guideline for the?
That's a, I don't mean to butt into you, but,
No,
that's a federal program.
Okay.
They have designated that, and I think that came out of the Reagan era, actually.
Is it multimodal or what?
Yeah, it's a multimodal. See, that also could include things like, you know, for the Amish, for the buggy trails along the side of the roads, which I think is a good thing, you know, for those folks, because they do need a way to traverse back and forth without, because I guess, from what RL used to say, like out in Middlefield, where the buggies go, it kind of makes a ridge into the pavement, you know,
Yeah.
and, you know, when you have the buggy trails off of the road, it's probably a little better, it's better. So, yeah, that's a program, we'd have to talk to our congressman.
We have 88 counties in the state.
Your congress,
And how many counties do we have that have
a road?
an Amish issue? Geauga County and Holmes County? I mean, there might be some
Well,
overlap into some of
Carroll
the.
County,
Yeah.
Holmes County.
I'd say
Wayne
there's
County,
probably,
Wayne County,
4 or
Columbia
5.
County.
there's quite a few.
there's quite a few actually, there's
Yeah.
probably.
There's
yeah.
quite a few. And then, you know, there,
Tuscarawas has a little bit.
Well, that's
And
what I'm
then it
saying.
also goes
There's a
into
number that have
transit.
a little, but
Yeah.
but
Little
it's
bit
not as
into
prevalent
transit.
as it would
Yeah.
be in
You
the
know.
other two counties, so.
Millersburg is big.
oh yeah,
Carroll County
Millersburg is
big.
huge, you're right.
There's some that are actually bigger than us over here, but
But
yeah.
a huge question that needs to be asked, and Grace and I had this conversation after the meeting. We contribute, our county, about $26 million. We get back $6 million. And so where does the other $20 million go? If I talk to Joe Cattell, and I have, you can ask him this question. If we just kept all of our money and told Ohio, the Department of Transportation, Federal Department of Transportation, stay out, can we take care of our own roads?
Where's that
Now,
26
I don't know if
million
that's,
come
that
from?
makes sense or not.
But Skip,
And
I
so-
think,
Let me finish. And so the question gets to be, can we take care of our roads? He said, yes. We could fund, if we just kept our own money, we could fund and take care of our own roads perfectly well. And so the question gets to be, is the bureaucracy, the ODOT, Ohio Department of Transportation bureaucracy, so bloated, so big, that it consumes so much money? That's one of the reasons we can't fund our highway, because we've got this huge bloated bureaucracy that
28
sucks up all the
cents.
dollars.
Yeah.
So we need to get them to come and talk to us and say what it is they do with their money.
well,
Where did you
Myron
get the
Package said
26
he would
million?
come.
The 26 million comes from a calculation that Joe told me that we have 95,000 registered cars in Geauga County.
All right.
Okay, if you go to the AAA and you get the averages on what these cars consume, 15,000 miles a year on average,
All
and
right.
at 25 miles to the gallon, that's an average, comes right from AAA. You can, it's simple math at that point in time, because you do a calculation of how much gas they consume on an annual basis, times the amount of gas tax that's produced. If you go to tax.ohio.gov, there's actually a form that shows how much tax is paid out of Geauga County and how much we get back. I mean, it's actually on the form, it shows each county, what the contributions are, what the.
Didn't we
so on
hear
and so forth, so.
I
from
think-
two sources, Joe being the one here, and I believe it was the commissioner from Lake County at a NOACA meeting that I was at and you attended, that all of that money from the 88 counties gets put into a pool and then divided by 88. And that's not,
That's the federal money.
that's federal or just state?
Okay, you got 28 cents goes to ODOT, like Skip said, all of it goes to ODOT.
Okay,
18 cents is federal, and they return back to all the counties 90% of that. So that's what's divided among all the counties.
So 28 cents. So
The
it's
28 cents that goes to
is
ODOT.
ODOT, and then,
It's 18 or 19.2 is federal.
so is there another 18 cents on top of the 28?
Yes, yes.
Actually, I think, and you can verify this, I'll send you a form. The form comes right off the Ohio
Here, I've got it
tax.gov.
written down in my.
And it explains the 28 cents a gallon. There's actually I think there's 5 levies involved with that, separate levies. And it talks about, that's the one that's divided equally among
So
all
the,
the counties.
so the 28 cents, that goes to the state of
It
Ohio?
goes to the state of Ohio
Right.
for funding roads. And by the way, those are only 2 funding sources. We also have our licensing fees. We have all these other fees that also contribute. If you look at the total amount
But
of
the 18
dollars,
cents, that goes to federal?
the 18 cents goes to the federal.
But
government,
they return 90% of it.
and they give it back to us
90%.
and tell us how to spend it.
Well,
Yeah. So-
That's the key.
Yeah.
That's the person.
Same thing with the
So
Department
the,
of
so
Ohio.
what would?
here it
be-
is. It's, here, I got the exact numbers because I wrote it down. It was 18.4 of federal, and 90.5 comes that back to Ohio. And 28 state all goes to the dot. Ronald Reagan
It's actually Judge Bush.
put that money, I wrote that to the transit. That went to the transit, 1%.
Do you know how much RTA gets in federal grants?
A lot. I don't know the exact numbers off the top of my head.
What was it?
Yeah.
Well, their whole
59
budget
million?
jumped,
Oh, yeah,
their
it's
whole
big.
budget jumped like 30 million in a year.
And that's part of our
basically.
alternative forms of
But I want to
transportation.
also tell you
So-
that the counties, the 5 counties, Lorraine, Medina, Cuyahoga, Geauga, Lake, the 5 counties, every single county gets more out than they get back. Cuyahoga most likely is somewhere around, we may be in the millions, but they're probably in the billions.
I'd like to see the proof on that.
Yeah, well, that is one of the things that they were gonna bring out at the next meeting.
They
were
can't
gonna
do it.
bring, and I wanna see
They
the
can't do it.
breakdown.
I've
I
already
wanna
talked to
see all the
Grace.
breakdown.
They can't do it. They got Pat Holtz working on that. He's so flummoxed right now because he wants to prove in the worst way that we're takers rather than makers. He can't do it. Go talk to him. Bring him in here.
And we will.
Because you know,
Talk
the
to
Bring
him.
other thing
ODOT.
too is
He
I
is
think
right
we
now
ought to
so
bring
confused
ODOT
on
in,
how
we
to
ought
do
to
that
bring
because
ODOT.
he's
Well, I told
Myron.
Myron, I
So
asked
he's,
Myron
he's got a
Package.
predetermined outcome
So
and
if
it's
you
not
want
working.
That's
Myron
right,
out.
Package
exactly.
to
It's not
come
working
in.
out. Because I've asked him that question. He said, well, it's very confusing.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's not clear. You know, you wouldn't understand it if I showed it to you. Those are the comments that I've heard from Pat so far.
Because what we might do too is like maybe, it's probably too late now to try to get them to change their schedule. And maybe they could come and do like a presentation for one of our night meetings.
Great.
You know, and they could basically just kind of lay out a bunch of
Bring
stuff. and-
ODOT in.
Yeah, we could bring ODOT, we could bring,
Myron Pukish.
Package.
Package. I can never pronounce his last name.
Myron Package. I have asked him, and he has said he would come. I did talk with him about that.
because I think a lot of people, I mean, I hear a lot of people asking me questions and I have to say, I don't know all the answers, and it's a very complicated, network of, you know, like a motion of money and stuff that's like going from here to here to here, and it's like, we need to, you know, try to, it's really hard to get some good clarification, and it just seems like, there's just a lot of facets to the whole thing.
Did we finish
Well, I'll
these
tell
three?
you,
'Cause
yeah,
I
we
have to-
need to
Yeah.
finish the
I
last
have to
3 here.
have a-
Okay.
another meeting.
I do want to clarify before we go any farther that on 17 and 18 that it was just the president of the board that needed to sign the contract for EnviroCom.
So moved, just the president. Do we need a vote?
I just wanted to make that
Okay.
correction.
So on number 19, go ahead and read that one.
Commissioner's Office is requesting the board approve and execute the agreement between the Geauga County Board of Commissioners and Chardon Chamber of Commerce for the use of the county parking lots located at 100 Short Court Street and 208 East Park Street during the Chardon Chamber of Commerce 5th Annual Car and Bike Show on June 22nd, 2014 for the period 9 o'clock a.m. through 4 o'clock p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Speedy?
Aye.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye, motion approved, thank you. Number 20 and 21.
The Commissioner's Office is requesting the Board approve and execute Resolution number 14-083 honoring Dr. David Mullen for over 10 years of service to Geauga County. The Commissioner's Office is requesting the Board approve and execute Resolution number 14-084 honoring the dedication of the new Munson Township Town Hall facility.
I'll make those motions.
Second.
Commissioner Speedy?
Aye.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spiller?
All right, motion's approved. And we've got, the acknowledgements with the meetings we've had today at 1:30, here, we've got the Port of Geauga Juvenile Detention Center Joint Board Meeting at 1:30 p.m. The 13th, we've got Planning Commission has been canceled. Board of Revisions on the 19th.
That's still going on?
Family First Council, 2 p.m. at Jobs and Family Services on the 19th. On the 20th, Commissioners will hold regular session. The 22nd, regular session, and that's at 6:30 p.m. And then the 26th is Memorial Day, so the offices will be closed. And the 27th, the Commissioners' meeting is canceled. And with that, if we could have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
On this